Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com for Saturday, February 17th. I'm Tom Leach along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Mutuals and Simulcasting, and we're going to take a look at the 4 graded stakes races on the card Saturday at the Fairgrounds in New Orleans, culminating with a Derby prep, the Grade 2 Risen Star. But we will start in the 5th race with the Grade 3 Mineshaft handicap, 4-year-olds and up going a mile and a 16th. Who did you land on, Jim?
I thought this was a really nice race. I was a little bit disappointed only come up with eight horses, but I can make a case for about 4 in here at least. Cedartown's going to be the favorite because he ran so well in the Louisiana Legends a couple weeks ago or 4 weeks ago and beat Scuba really easily. I thought Scuba might give him a tussle there, but he didn't really. But I think Scuba can move up his second trip at Fairgrounds. He ran well that day, but got beat by 2 lengths, got bumped early. So I think Scuba and Cedartown both coming out of the prep race for this make a lot of sense. But I went with the player for Buff Bradley. Came out of that same race and got bumped in the stretch or bumped at the break, and really he was the favorite. He went off at 4-5 that day off the Clark handicap and won the Fayette at Keeneland. Albeit on a sloppy track, so you don't know how much that moved him up, but he's run well in the past in graded stakes, so I think the player is my pick here over the 2 horses that beat him the last time. I think he's got a chance to turn the tables. And I think all 3 have a shot at getting beat by a horse at 12-1 on the outside. I really like the jockey change. I like Rosario, but Johnny V taking the horse Team Colors on the outside for an unknown trainer, J.K. Sweezy. He's only 5 for 49 in 2017. This horse ran behind Shining Copper in the last 2 races, one at Churchill and one at Gulfstream, and Shining Copper is controlling speed, so he didn't really have a chance to close. I think he will get a little bit of a pace here with No Distortion, the 2, Thirst for Life, the 6 going to the lead, and Rich Daddy having some positional speed as well. So I think Team Colors draws outside in the 8 hole, gets Johnny V for a trainer that Johnny V probably has never ridden for, so that kind of piqued my interest in this race. So Team Colors has a real shot here. You made me bet win money, I'd probably take the player, but Team Colors at 12-1 intrigues me a little bit.
I'm kind of thinking the same way you are. I picked the player as well. Really like the workout pattern, and I think he bounces back and takes this trouble trip last time, and they had probably pushed hard to get him to the Clark, and so I think that was maybe a little regression, and I look for him to bounce back strong. Might get a little price on Scuba, and then Cedartown's going to get no price at all. But I think I thought he was set up to. I think I actually picked him last time. I thought it was set up well for him, and they ended up betting him down. But I think he could be vulnerable in this spot. The next graded stake is the 7th. It's the Rachel Alexandra for 3-year-old fillies. So this is a step on the road to the Kentucky Oaks. And I tried to find a better price, but I ended up coming back to Menominee Girl, the 8. Bullet works for this, and the Cox barn has been on fire down at the Fairgrounds, and she's got speed, and I just think she's going to be awfully hard to beat in here. Wonder Gadot is certainly capable, but I just don't like the fact that she hadn't been able to make a move on the speed figure scale, so she's kind of hanging in the same area, kind of idling, and I'm going to go against her in this spot. Classy Act and She's a Julie, 3 and 5. Are the other 2 that I would take a look at in here. If you're betting multi-race wagers, you could spread out to those and try to find a little bit more of a price. But I think there's a chance you could just single Menominee Girl here. How about you?
Every time I look at a Brad Cox horse or filly at Fairgrounds in Oaklawn, I think, he can't win another one. He wins again. He's 32% at Fairgrounds. It's hard to pick against her. But I think there's a horse in here that you didn't mention that is going to be a price. I would certainly not encourage anybody to leave this horse off of your pick 3s and Wonder Gadot as well. But Heavenly Love, the 6 horse for Mark Casse, is the quote-unquote other Casse horse in here with Wonder Gadot. And Le Peru rides her back. She won the Alcibiades here last year. And if you remember how impressive she was that day coming off a turf win, she won by 5.5, and I mean, I remember standing out at the rail next to the winner's circle to watch that race, and she just blew those fillies away. And so she goes to Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, goes off at 3-1, and just didn't run well. She was stuck on the inside in the one hole, which was exactly the place you did not want to be on Breeders' Cup days. So I think you just completely draw a line through that. And she comes back in the Silver Bullet Day last time out, and she gets bumped at the break, steadied at the 7/16 pole, never had a chance. So I think you just strike those last two races. And if she were coming off the Alcibiades to this race, what would she be? She's 6-1 morning line. I think she may even be a little higher than that, because I think Monomoy Girl is going to get pounded at the windows. I'm going to take Heavenly Love here and think I'm going to get a price on a really quality filly who's had some really bad luck the last two times out. So,
interesting angle. I like that.
Yeah, I like Le Peru. I just think you draw a line through them, and I think you do that quite often with 3-year-old fillies. Some people might say, well, she just didn't come back as well as a 3-year-old. She never had a shot in that last race. And the juvenile fillies, she was in a horrible post position, and they bet her down to, I think she was second choice in that race, and I think she got a real shot here. So don't go overboard on Monomoy Girl, and I think give Heavenly Love a shot.
Takes us to the 8th race, the Grade 3 Fairgrounds Handicap at about 1 1/8 miles on the turf. Got a big favorite there in Mr. Misunderstood. Who do you like?
Okay, I bet against Mr. Misunderstood last time. I'm not going to do that again. Absolutely loves Fairgrounds. The #1 Fairgrounds jockey and the #1 Fairgrounds trainer. So I can't believe they didn't put together a pick 4 in these stakes races at Fairgrounds. This is actually the first race of the Black Gold pick 5, which is a jackpot wager down there. But I would single Mr. Misunderstood. I'm convinced now. He's won 5 in a row. 3 of those, three wins in a row at Fairgrounds. So one of those is at the Fairgrounds. Giroux rides him back. Bridge Mahon rode him last time out. Fits him like a glove. Brad Cox, pretty easy pick. Synchrony, I think, has a shot here. He's Grade 3 placed, and the quality is there. I just don't know about coming from Monmouth. He ran one race on Fairgrounds, is 1-for-1, but I think he's a step below Mr. Misunderstood. Galton, the 3, one of the key wagers I've got written down is you might want to see this horse second. He's ran 8 times at Fairgrounds and 0 wins and 5 second-place finishes, so that's pretty consistent. High Noon Rider, the 9, another Brad Cox. Can't leave him out either. Applicator, the 7, I think has a shot at a price, but I'm going to go with the obvious favorite, Mr. Misunderstood, here in the 8th race.
I can't pick against him either. I tried looking for somebody else. I think Granny's Kitten at 8-1 could be intriguing. Galton might be a little bit of a price. Ran well last time. Those two for price plays. High Noon Rider, Synchrony are the others that I would use, but I couldn't go against Mr. Misunderstood for the same reasons. The Cox Barnes hitting at 32%. This horse is 9 for 13 overall, 3 for 3 at Fairgrounds, and looks like just in peak form. So, look at the weather. If they get some rain down there, that's going to always throw a wrench into things. So I think if you're playing multi-race wagers, you look at the 7th or the 8th. Menominee Girl and Mr. Misunderstood are both Cox horses that'll be big favorites. So take a stand against one or the other of them probably, or both for a really big payoff. But we both like Mr. Misunderstood. 9th race is the Grade 2 Risen Star for 3-year-olds at 1 1/16 miles. And last week in the Sam F. Davis, I got Flame Away home at 10-1. I'm going to try to do a similar thing here for similar reasons. The reason I like Flame Away is that he had popped a buyer figure in his 3-year-old debut that was better than anything he did at 2. Number 7, Bravazzo, did the same thing with an 89 buyer in his 3-year-old debut for Lucas. Gary Stevens rode him. He keeps the mount. And this horse had a bullet work on Monday of this week. So I think that Bravazzo could upset him, and Still Regard is certainly a strong-looking contender for Hollendorfer. Looked good last time, won easily. Principe Guillerme was in that race, so I think you use him and Snapper Sinclair. They were all in the same race, and I think in multi-race wagers, if you could include all 3 of those. Noble Indy is a Pletcher allowance winner. Those can always be dangerous. I think Give Me a Minute for Dallas Stewart. This horse kept Grade 1 company as a maiden, couldn't win. Then they dropped him down and finally got his maiden win last time with ease. And now he bounces back up into a Grade 2 stake and got that boost of confidence. if he stays up around 15-1, I'd have to take a look at Give Me a Minute as well in exactas. But I'm going to try to take a stand with Bravazzo here for Wayne Lukas in the Risen Star. How about you?
Yeah, the two horses I liked were Bravazzo, the 7. I agree with you on that buyer. The horse has really improved from 2 to 3. And Wayne Lukas, even though he's 80 years old, he can still take those 3-year-olds and get them ready for the Triple Crown series. And this horse fits his profile. So I like Bravazzo, but I went back and watched the LeCompte, and it seems to me that the last few years, look at Gunrunner 2 years ago, he swept all 3, I believe, the prep races at Louisiana. So if you like the fairgrounds dirt, you tend to run well in all of them. And I think in Still Regard, if you like the LeCompte effort, he won that so easily. Principe Guilherme, I thought was compromised in that race, but I watched it back. He wasn't really bumped. He just wasn't as good as the winner. So I would not use him. I would use in Still Regard instead. And Snapper Sinclair was well back and was never going to win that. So I think Bravazzo in Still Regard and Noble Indy, which is a Pletcher 2 for 2. It seems like every prep race we have for the Derby, there's a Pletcher horse in there that has won easily at first out, won fairly easily second out. This is the first time he's facing Stakes Company. He beat Mississippi last out, and I really liked Mississippi in that race. So I think Noble Indy has a shot in here as well. But if I have a win pick, Bravazzo at 8-1 looks awfully good, and Still Regard is probably the best horse in the race.
Best of luck with your wagers on the Fairgrounds card on Saturday or wherever else you are playing. They got a nice card, some stakes races, including the Grade 2 Barbara Fritchie at Laurel you might want to take a look at. And we will be back next week for another edition of the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.